So, when you think about our ancient ancestors, what's the first image that pops into your head? Probably something kind of simple, right? A brutish figure just trying to survive. Well, a whole wave of new discoveries is totally flipping that picture on its head. It's showing us something way more brilliant. So, let's dive into the evidence that's literally rewriting our own story.
And look, for a long, long time, that's basically been the standard view. The idea that early humans were just technologically simple, kind of just reacting to whatever the world threw at them instead of actually mastering it. But is that really the whole story? I think you know where this is going.
I mean, you see it all the time, right? Somebody finds some ancient artifact, and the reaction online is like, it's a bit of old stuff. Kind of this dismissive shrug at the relics of our deep past. But what if that so-called old stuff holds the key? The key to understanding a level of ingenuity that we've just consistently and completely underestimated.
Okay, so let's start by rewinding the clock, and I mean way back. We're not even just talking about early Homo sapiens here. We're going deep, deep into the Old Stone Age to find some truly incredible evidence of foresight.
300,000 years. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the age of a collection of wooden tools recently dug up in China at a site called Gangtengqing. I mean, the sheer age is it's staggering. And what these tools are telling us, it's a total game changer.
And look, these weren't just random sticks they found lying around. No way. These were purpose-built instruments. Archaeologists found these polished digging sticks, hooks, and all sorts of other tools, and they were all designed for one very specific job: digging up underground plants. This proves our ancestors weren't just wandering around hoping to stumble upon food. They were making strategic trips to specific places with a toolkit they had custom-made for the job. Now that is foresight. That is planning.
All right, so from gathering, let's see how this ingenuity keeps building and shift over to hunting. You know the stereotype, right? The dangerous, up-close, risky hunt. But the evidence we're finding? It shows our ancestors were also masters of engineering, creating these incredibly sophisticated long-range weapons.
And what's really fascinating here is just how widespread this innovation was, all across the globe and across huge stretches of time. Think about it. 80,000 years ago in Central Asia, we find what could be the world's oldest arrowheads. Then you jump forward 40,000 years, all the way over to Poland, and you find this meticulously carved boomerang made from a mammoth tusk. This wasn't a fluke. It was a pattern of advanced technological thinking happening all over the planet.
Now, I know when you hear boomerang, you're probably picturing the kind that zips back to you. But this thing, this 40,000-year-old discovery from Poland, it was no toy. This was a non-returning boomerang, a heavy, perfectly aerodynamic hunting weapon designed for one thing and one thing only: maximum impact. What's wild is that its shape and its cross-section are incredibly similar to the ones used by Aboriginal hunters in Australia. That shows a deep, deep understanding of physics and design.
And this really just drives home the diversity of that ingenuity. On one hand, in Uzbekistan, you've got these tiny, delicate stone points. They call them microliths, so small they could only have been used as tips for arrows, and we're still not even sure if they were made by Neanderthals or Homo sapiens. Then on the other hand, in Poland, you've got this big, heavy weapon carved from the tusk of a mammoth. So you've got different materials, totally different designs, different times, but they all point to the same thing: deadly, effective, long-range hunting technology.
So this incredible technology, it wasn't just used for hunting animals. Turns out, the very same ingenuity that helped our ancestors thrive also had a darker side. It opened the door to organized interpersonal violence.
And that brings us to what might be the most incredible part of this whole story. It's a 12,000-year-old cold case from a cave in Vietnam. A man, who researchers call TBH1, was shot with an arrow, but here's the thing. He didn't die right away. He actually lived with this injury for weeks, maybe even months.
Okay, let's play detective and break down the forensics here. So this man had something really rare, an anatomical anomaly, basically an extra rib up near his neck. And that is exactly where the projectile hit him, fracturing the bone. They even found the weapon nearby, a small arrowhead made of quartz. When they analyzed the bone, they saw clear signs of a massive infection, even a channel where pus would have drained out. So while the shot itself wasn't instantly fatal, the infection that came after almost certainly was.
But the story gets even more complicated. You see, the quartz used to make that arrowhead, it was exotic. It doesn't match any of the local stone tools.
That raises the pretty chilling possibility that this was a conflict between different groups of people. But there's another side to this coin. The man was buried with care. He was placed in a fetal position. This suggests that even though he suffered this terrible violence, his own community took care of him in his final months and then honored him in death.
So what does this all add up to? What does it all mean? Well, it means we have to take that old, simple caricature of the caveman and just throw it out. We have to embrace a reality that is so much more complex and honestly so much more fascinating.
I mean, when you lay it all out like this, the picture becomes crystal clear. Those 300,000-year-old tools from China, that's strategic planning. The 80,000-year-old arrowheads from Uzbekistan, advanced engineering. That 40,000-year-old boomerang from Poland, sophisticated craftsmanship. And the 12,000-year-old skeleton from Vietnam, that reveals complex social dynamics, showing us both conflict and care. This is not a bit of old stuff. This is hard evidence of a mind that was every bit as curious, as creative, and as complex as our own is today.
You know, there's this quote from an archaeologist, Christian Tryon, and it says it all, really. He says, "As usual, we consistently underestimate the abilities of our ancestors." And it's so true. The more we discover, the more we realize that the story of humanity is one of incredible brilliance and innovation, stretching back hundreds of thousands of years.
And that's really the final thought I want to leave you with. Think about it. Things like wooden tools, they almost never survive. That discovery in China was a total miracle of preservation. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible technologies, what other brilliant ideas and amazing stories have just dissolved back into the earth, just waiting for us to uncover them?